To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
Presented by Ebix Cash. हर खुशी के लिए काफी है.
Hello and welcome to the Business Today show. I'm your host Udayan Mukherjee. My guest today in the show is truly the Iron Man of Indian fintech. Not only does he run India's largest insurance portal and a very popular credit portal, but he's also a very keen Ironman enthusiast. In fact, he holds some records as one of the fastest timings from India in Ironman. So he's the man machine. And of course, he runs Policybazaar and Paisabazaar. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Yashish Dahiya, Chairman and CEO of PB Fintech, to the show today. Yashish, thank you very much for joining in and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Udayan. Nice to be here.
Well, there's a lot to talk about on Policybazaar, and congratulations on your successful listing. But I want to start with all the chatter that is going on in the fintech ecosystem today, because after Paytm, there is so much hand wringing and chest beating which is going on. One of your peers from BharatPe told me recently that he thinks that they've been very opportunistic. Where do you stand in this whole debate? Do you think the waters have become a bit muddied?
I have a very blinkered vision of the world, and Udayan, if you were to know me as a person, you would realize that very quickly. In fact, even at home, I am not the one who even knows news here. So I don't even know that Omicron has happened and what it means for the world, etc., etc. So I genuinely have a very blinkered view of the world, and I'm very focused on what we are doing as a company, and very sure of our own future, etc. And I'm not trying to evade this question. I genuinely don't have a view on what's happening in the world, whether fintechs are right. There's a lot that goes on in the world, and I guess I only have time for so little, or mind space for so little.
Well, you did evade my question, but let me bring it back to your own example then. You've consistently told people, observers, that you're focused on your business and you don't care about delivering profits in the near term, because you cannot do that. And you're running a long race. I mean, you're looking out 5-10 years with your company, and that's fine. Now, private equity investors, mature investors, venture capital investors understand that. They invest for 7-10 years. But public investors are used to seeing profits, assessing company by current profits, seeing profits every quarter. Now, if your view is that profits are not your priority for the next 4-5 years, why did you bring PB Fintech public? Why could you not have kept it private till you were in a position to deliver profits and then taken the company public?
Sure. I think a very good question. I have not said we are not focused on profits. I have neither said we are not focused on efficiency. We are not a wasteful company. Please understand, in this whole story that's been going on in the background, Policybazaar has raised about $400 million before it became public, of which on the day we went public, about $250 million was lying in our bank account. So over the last 13 years, we have built 2 brands, at least, if I'm not including Doc Prime and Dubai as brands at all. But Policybazaar and Paisabazaar are 2 consumer internet brands. These are not technology plays at the back end or anything. They have gone and brought millions of customers on their websites. So these are consumer internet leaders in both their categories, both built with about $70 million each. That, I'm not saying we are over frugal, etc., but that is not a wasteful organization, if you would, in today's day and time. And of course, everything has to be seen in context. So that is how we will stay. We're not going to burn through money. Today, we probably have $700 million lying in our bank account, $750 million lying in our bank account. We're not going to burn through it. That's not our intent. Nothing about us is going to change. Essentially, the efficiency will continue. All I'm saying is, when you're looking at somebody running a marathon, sometimes by focusing on their by kilometer time, you can destroy their race. Because sometimes, yes, they can run faster for that 1 kilometer. You're at your 20th kilometer. You can do 21st and 22nd kilometer faster. There is no problem. But by doing that, you will destroy They're 32 to 42 kilometers. And I am using a very precise word. Sometimes by focusing on profitability, you can destroy a company's value. And I will not fall into that trap, where to impress investors, to give profit 1 quarter earlier, I will destroy my company's value. The company still stays a baby to me, even though it is public. And even when we were raising money, of course, I cannot go and say this to every retail investor. I mentioned this to each of our institutional investors, that if you are somebody who is looking for short-term profitability, please do not invest. This is not the company for that. While we will not be wasteful, and yes, eventually we have to deliver profits. Eventually we'll be valued on a PE multiple, no problem. But whether that is 5 years from now or 1 year from now is a real question. I don't think these companies are being valued for what profit they will deliver in the next year.
But at some point, Yashish, at some point, what is that point?
What?
Between
we are
1
not
and 5 and 10, there's a huge gap.
No. So we are not allowed to make forward-looking statements. But I am personally very, very confident that sometime not in the so distant future, we will be valued on a PE with much more growth than the PE multiples that exist for other companies today, and be able to deliver very good value. Now, all one is saying is don't look at it in the next 18 months. That is stupidity. And if you want to, then don't invest in this company. Who's forcing you to? There's a whole world out there. Please go and invest in other companies.
Of course.
Nobody's forcing anybody to be here.
No, fair enough. I mean, there is always that choice. But let me ask you a futuristic question, not pertaining to the next 18 months. There are lots of old businessmen, traditional and wise businessmen, who give us examples of previous trends where a kind of or nature of companies came to the fore, created a lot of excitement when something new was going on, as it is happening with the digital ecosystem today. But at the end of 10 years, not 18 months, maybe just 1 or 2 out of 10 were left standing. The rest had disappeared. Do you agree with that assessment, that all the excitement that we're seeing in the digital unicorn ecosystem today in India, that many of them will probably not see the light of the next 10 years?
I do not want to be that harsh in my assessment. But yes, there's a lot of unnecessary euphoria. I have zero doubt there. I'm myself somebody who is as much a pessimist as an optimist. And I do see a lot of people having unnecessary euphoria. In fact, I would even go to the extent of saying some people may be investing because investing is profitable, because they make money every time they invest. So I think there's a lot going on in the world. There is a lot of capital. And I think there will be interesting situations. But then who are we to say? Sometimes these lack of interesting situations carry on for so long that they make the interesting outcome, which, rational people believe are going to be there, sometimes impossible. With the, today I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example. A colleague of ours, mid-level colleague of ours, I wouldn't say is ultra bright or anything, not a very high rated person in the company, left and started something in crypto. The guy is worth a few $100 million, is driving around in a $1 million car, has taken cash out of the system. Now, another colleague of mine invested $10,000 last month. He's worth $500,000, right? So obviously when those things happen, even I ask him, take $10,000 from me also and invest it. Right? So because I can afford to lose $10,000, but if it becomes $500,000, what's the harm? All I'm trying to say is these situations, which are unreal in many ways, happen. But if masses join in, they can continue for a long time. And so I think
you use the word unreal, Yashish. Are you a skeptic then of this whole cryptocurrency boom?
I'm a skeptic of anything, because when I ask those people that what exactly are you doing? What is this plan? They say there's no need to have a plan. You start a currency and it just goes up. And in 6 months, 1 year, you are out of it. and then everybody else is owning those things and they're trading in it. And you start with 1 pence and it becomes $10 and $15, and that is enough. You don't need. The word that scared me was you don't need to have a plan. You just put a white paper out with a plan. All I'm trying to say is, Udayan, there's a lot going on in the world today. But sometimes even people like me are saying, okay, let us put $10,000 and make a profit out of it. What's the harm?
I know, Yashish, that prudent that you are, you won't get sucked into that. But I also wondered, you're an Ironman enthusiast. Ironman is a triathlon. You do cycling, you do running, you do swimming. You've got 2 horses. You've got insurance, you've got credit. Ever thought of adding a third leg, keeping with your Ironman enthusiasm? Maybe something on investments to complete the trial?
We have thought about investment. We are not yet sure how to. The day we feel confident, we will. We have been looking at options, but there is a third, which is Doc Prime, which is there. It is just hiding under the wings. We do believe a lot in health tech, health data, and we are waiting for the right opportunity there. We are being cautious. We are looking at the data rails being developed by the government and looking to see how those can be leveraged to really, bring a data play in the health tech system. So yes, there is a third out there, clearly. And investment is something we're not saying no to. At this point, we are not certain what our play in it is. See, whenever we do something, Udayan, we have to be very certain that we have a genuine play in it. We're not doing it because somebody expects us to. And I haven't been able to identify that genuine play yet.
That's very candid of you. But let me ask you what you think could be the real threat for something like a Policybazaar, because you're the dominant player right now. But everybody I speak to in the fintech universe say that we are also going to do insurance, whether it's a big payments company or a digital credit company. Everybody, and these people may not have your experience with insurance, but they reach a lot of people. They have huge number of customer touch points. You cannot deny that. Do you think your business could become a commodity over a period of time and you may not be able to make as much profit out of it? Is that a risk?
I think these are not sales categories and they get misunderstood. They are very high education categories, very high disclosure categories, and fairly involved categories. They also require a lot of trust, a lot of hand-holding, a lot of customer education, both in terms of brand and in terms of operations. I think these are specialized categories. Now, what people want is they want a convenience play. These are not yet convenient categories, and very difficult to make them convenient categories because even 1-2% fraudulent customers will spoil the entire convenience for everybody. You will not be able to provide, the moment your claims ratio goes beyond 100%, you won't be able to provide a convenient experience to the consumers. And so you have to be circumspect about this one. Now, I do believe market will be expanded. Things like motor insurance, two-wheeler insurance, some of the other kind of categories will certainly happen through various data lakes and financial products. But I'll eventually ask you one simple question, Udayan. If you ask them, why do they want to do insurance? Somewhere the answer would be, in my core business, I'm not able to make profits, so I want to do insurance for profits. Somewhere you will find that it would reek of that answer because there's a lot of profitability in insurance, right? If you ask me why I do insurance, that's not the reason I do insurance. I do insurance because there is a genuine lack of health and life insurance in the country. And I think that is somewhere where the answer really lies, because if you believe this area does not require specialization at all, and it's something where, like hotcakes, people will buy, then of course you don't need a specialist.
Okay, let me turn this question around, because it's not only fintechs. I take your point about them not making money in payments business and therefore trying to sell insurance. That point is taken. What about the guys you sell yourself? I mean, the private insurance companies. What if they wake up and say, hey, why do I need to give Policybazaar this money? Why don't I strengthen my own online platform and sell directly? Which a couple of private insurers have started doing, and they've delisted from online platforms like yours. Do you see the guys you sell, I mean your clients, as eventual competitors?
No, I do not see them as competitors. And I think with with deep respect, they shouldn't think of themselves as competitors either. See, customers do not wake up in the morning to say, I want to buy insurance only from one company. Customers do not even wake up in the morning saying they want to buy insurance. So the big thing that Policybazaar is achieving is convincing a lot of people to get up in the morning and say, okay, let me explore insurance. Let me research insurance, right? Now, if you don't want to be on that platform, absolutely your desire, but you don't gain anything by not being on the platform. You only lose because the share that might have come to you, somebody else is taking that share. Customers are not missing any 1 or 2 or even 5 companies because customers are come to do research. If they don't find you on the platform, they'll just not. Maybe some customers, a fraction of those customers might think that, oh, that one particular, but think about it, then that's not how customers think. They don't come and say, oh, company X is the only company I want to. If they were that sure, why would they come to Policybazaar in the first place? Right? It's a research platform. So we have a platform where customers come to purchase. It's a great place for companies to be. The cost of acquisition, they will themselves agree, is much, much lower than through any other means of acquiring customers directly. The second part is our claims ratios, because of our circumspect nature on this matter, are very much under control. And hence it's a profitable business for companies, which insurance does not have a limitation. It doesn't have a capacity limitation. So if you're getting profitable business, what's your problem? That usually it increases your direct business also. Because if you're on the platform, why do I go on Google? Because people see Policybazaar on Google and they also come to Policybazaar directly the next day. So it also increases your direct. So I don't understand this. I think people have a misunderstanding of the situation. And what I would request, if anybody was to do genuine research, look at people who've been on Policybazaar and off Policybazaar and see who has been growing in their direct business. And if direct business genuinely grows without Policybazaar, it actually does not. So I think it's a futile ego trip, okay, if I was to use the word at best.
And you don't mince your words, do you, Yashish? Be careful. It doesn't help to make too many enemies in the ecosystem. But let me ask you one question. Since you said you don't wake up in the morning and want to buy insurance, a lot of the business, therefore, for what you said, is offline. What do you think is going to be the eventual online-offline mix? And as you start doing offline as well, as you're doing offline selling of insurance, how significantly could your business model change?
No, so I wanted to clarify. We don't scout for business offline. We only are willing to come to your house to convince you to purchase insurance if you started your journey online. So the get up in the morning and believe you need insurance is the first step. And that does need to happen, right? And I think that started to happen in a significant way. I think both Policybazaar as well as the insurance companies have done a lot of work in making sure that happens, that the customers come to our platform and go to the other platforms. And I would say today, almost 30% of the business, perhaps, and I may be loose on this number, is somewhere online researched, offline purchased. And our offline, if you would think about it, is all about capturing that online researched, offline purchased market. That, why would we restrict ourselves to only capture the online research and online purchase? We are also, or remote research, remote purchase, we are also willing to go and capture some of the share that we have created in offline closure, right? And I think no harm whatsoever in that. The market shares are shifting on a continuous basis. I would say historically, every 3 years, our market share has doubled. Now, I don't know what it will be in the future. As I said, I cannot make forward-looking statements. I have not yet seen signs of it slowing down, that rate slowing down. Maybe it will slow down, but still it will keep inching away at the market share. And I think online will have a larger and larger market share in the future. If you ask me today, I would say online closed and online researched is roughly about 12% of the market. But, of course, depends on how you define market. If you're going to define corporate and, government contracts and all also as part of the market, then of course, a lot of that does not happen online.
Now, You said something interesting a while back. You said you're not sure about, or you haven't got into investments in a big way because you don't know exactly how to do it, because you don't know what is unique about what you may bring to the table on the investment front. Let me ask you about Paisabazaar in that light. What is unique that other credit providers cannot do that you are bringing to the table? What is your recipe for success in an unsecured credit platform?
See, Udayan, in both credit and insurance, these are both risk categories. And investment is not a risk category, if I was to put it that way. What that means is the seller has to be circumspect about the risk he's taking on, both in lending and in insurance. And what that means is, by definition, one seller cannot cover the entire market. A seller, to be really efficient, has to understand risk and decide which risk to take, which risk not to take. Now, that is precisely where the marketplace becomes a very powerful model, because a marketplace can create a panel of suppliers who cover a very wide spectrum of the market. So if you are supplier one, you spend 100 rupees, your marketing efficiency will never be enough, because a lot of the people will fall off, because you can't only select the people who will buy from you. The wastage will be very high. A marketplace, on the other hand, is very efficient because it creates a panel and thus may be able to cover, if a single supplier can cover 15% of the market, maybe a marketplace can cover 60% of the market. And hence its efficiency becomes very high. And that is precisely what I'm not able to cover in the investment category, because anybody can create a platform and offer it to everybody, right? And so there wasn't that. The second part about us in the category is, one can go wide, but we don't even carry the risk. So we are asset light. We don't carry the risk. If somebody wants to take a particular risk and loses money in doing so, that's their problem, not ours, quite honestly. And we cover a very wide spectrum of the market. I think that is where the business model of Policybazaar and Paisabazaar fits in. And for the customer, you're not actually selling, you're actually offering research, which is a better way to engage with the consumer, because you say, okay, research the options and then purchase. So I think from a business model perspective, we are quite clear on why we are here.
We're running out of time, Yashish, now, and I want to ask you a little bit about this Ironman bit, because I don't meet too many financial market people who are so enthusiastic about the athletic part of things. But what have you drawn from your experiences with Ironman, because you're serious about it, and inculcated that into the way you think about business, growth, ambition, strategy? What are the key takeaways that you may have imbibed?
See, you have to kill ego in any, let's not go into Ironman, it's fairly complicated conversation, but even in running a marathon, many times you have to kill ego, because in the first kilometer, 2 kilometers, you will see a lot of people running forward. You have to understand what is genuine competition, what is just noise, because the winner is the one who finishes, not the one who starts. You have to know, there are a lot of things that become part of you. Like I always say, you need blood to survive. In any race, you need blood to survive. But that doesn't mean you become a blood bank. If you again see the drift, that's towards money. In business, you need money to survive. But that doesn't mean our purpose in life is to become a bank. Or I don't mean become a bank in the sense it's not to just collect money, it's not to hoard money. I think a lot of these things I have learned from the experiences there, because you become part of that ecosystem where you know what's going to survive. You get a very good sense. When you do these races, you get a very good sense for what is real, what is not real. Who's going to go the distance, who's not going to go the distance. And yes, you have injection of funds and injection of blood and all that stuff, which is transfusions and all, are not allowed in those races. So clearly some of the things that go on in today's world may not be very applicable, but a fundamental belief system is that cannot be forever. It can be for fun and games, but that's never forever.
I'm sure you'll make it in the long term, Yashish. Thank you very much for your time today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you all the best with your Policybazaar and Paisabazaar. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.